Cheers and welcome to Irondale Brewing. Today we're going to talk about this gadget here, which is the Pinter. I'm definitely not the first person to put out Pinter videos, and it's been around for a long time. It didn't hit my radar until last month, basically. And they had some crazy deals where you could get one of these things plus two of their kits for $49. And I looked at it for a while and like, how would I even use the thing? And then eventually I talked myself into getting one. So why did I get one of these things? Or let's talk about what it is first, in case you haven't seen other videos about it. So it is basically a ferment and serve device. And the idea is that in this little keg, I guess you can call it that, you brew a batch of extract beer. So they have their own kits that are designed and sized for this device. And basically it's liquid hopped malt extract, and you basically fill it with water, squeeze the malt extract in there, and let it sit upright. And I'm going to actually do a beer in this today. But you let it sit upright to ferment. You pop it off the dock to get the trub out of the bottom. And then you just leave it in here. And the key, and what kind of tipped me over the edge to get one of these things, the key is it has essentially a spunding valve on the back. So this is essentially a pressure fermenter, if you want to think of it that way, or cask is probably a better way to think of it, where the beer just ferments in this thing. They have a kind of what I think is a pretty clever way of dumping the trub out of the fermenter, and then it uses the carbonation that naturally builds up during fermentation to serve via this kind of. I like the design of it too. It kind of looks like Mario Kart or something, but the tap on the front. And then the other thing that the kits I got a stout and a pale ale. Don't use this. But the other interesting thing is, of course, you can't, once it's in here, you're done. You can't open it. You can't dry hop. You can't put additions in there. But they do have this port on the back, and they have little vials of liquid hop extracts. So they have some kits that you basically, while it's fermenting, you screw the liquid hop vial on this thing, and that's the way you kind of inject some additional hop flavor. So all in all, I think this is a pretty cool and cleverly designed gadget. What I'm going to use it for is I'm going to try some of their kits, because why not? Especially since they too came with the thing. And then how I talked myself into going ahead and getting one, especially since it was only $49, is my idea is, as I was looking at my brewing schedule for the upcoming year, I have all these recipes on tap that I want to try that I'm not sure how they're going to work. Blackberry cream ale is one. I want to take another run at some green tea stuff. And I've started doing, 5-gallon all grain batches. But for things where I just want to try it and I'm not sure if it's going to work, this seems like a really slick way to do a small batch. It's about 1.4 gallons and try something out. And yes, I have small fermenters still, if you watch my early videos when I was doing 1 and 2.5 gallon batches. But the thing that tipped me over the edge was the fact that you just throw stuff in here and you don't ever have to take it out. I don't have to keg. I don't have to bottle. It just sits in here. You let it do its thing for, a couple of weeks. And then you put it in your fridge and you serve right from this thing. So it just seems like they've taken a lot of the extra stuff you'd have to do otherwise out of the equation. And of course, since it is just a fermenter, like I said, they have kits that are designed for this. But since it's just a fermenter, my plan is I can make, gallon or gallon and a half almost batch of beer. And then when I'm ready to ferment, you just dump it in this thing. There's nothing that says this can't, ferment whatever you put in it. That does, my understanding is, void the warranty, but I'm not planning on doing anything too crazy with it. You probably just want to be a little bit careful with, you don't want to dump a whole pack of yeast in it, for example, on a batch of small. You probably want to do a half or less just to make sure. I'm sure this thing can handle enough pressure that it wouldn't explode, but you probably don't want to get too crazy with it. So anyway, that's my rambling introduction to this thing. Again, ferment and serve vessel. It's really well built. It's nice and heavy. The dock is behind me, but we'll see how that works as I get the thing sanitized and get going on actually brewing a kit with this thing. So let's do that now. All right, we're going old school, me cutting my hat off again, but that was the best way to get the boxes in the shot. So here we have the Pinter, and I'm assuming this is the unit. This came with it. I assume these are the kits. Let's do the kits first, because that'll be the easy part, and then we can get that out of the way. And again, this was $49, came with the Pinter. and 2 beer kits. And I don't even remember which ones I chose. So we will find out. All right. Just make sure there's nothing in there. Okay. So I got the... Actually, I'm going to go around and make sure this is coming up. But I got the Stars and Stripes American Pale Ale. Pinter pack. Yeah, that should work. I apologize if this is angle is weird, but I think we're good. And let's just open one of these and see what's in here. But as you probably know, if you're watching this video, you're probably at least kind of aware of what the Pinter is. And the packs that come with it are hopped liquid malt extract in a bag and yeast, cleaner, and if applicable, which for this one it is not, they have a little slide where, or a little slot for a little hop bottle. I'll probably get one of the packs that does have that because I'm curious how those work. But basically they call this a fresh press, so it's hopped liquid malt extract that you just dump in the Pinter and with the yeast and let it do its thing. Of course, you can never get it back in the box the same way it was when it shipped. So we'll put that out of the way. And then the other one I got is Dark Matter, which is classic stout. I've seen a lot of people brew that one. It comes out pretty well, apparently. We'll find out. And this kit also came with, oh, looks like 2. I'll just open one of these. Sorry, I think I'm bumping the microphone with cardboard boxes. All right, and it also came with 2 of these Pinter glasses. The logo on the front, fresh on the back. Very cool. Anyway, 49 bucks for all this. Okay, that's the kit. Let's set that aside. And get into the actual thing. See what's in here. Okay, packing list. Put that aside. Okay, and there's 2 boxes in here. Looks like the dock and the actual unit. Get the big box out of the way. All right. Cool box. I'll open this one first. So I think this is where most of the action is. All right. Oh, wow. Nice. Very cool box. I hope this is coming through. I'm going to leave that there for 1 second, walk around the camera, and I may have to fake this if it isn't looking. Yeah, it's working, I think. Again, I apologize if I'm out of getting the framing not quite right. You can see, welcome to a world of fresh beer. Very slick box design. Opens up. Oh my goodness. It's got hops in there. Not hops, but a picture of hops. And wow, that is an elaborate box. And the unit itself comes with a little cover. I guess it's just a dust cover. Put that over here. It feels like this may just be like for shipping purposes, so it doesn't get scratched. It's not super substantial or anything. But who knows? And then this is the unit. Okay. And I got the, I think they call it deep gray or something. It's pretty, feels pretty solid. It's plastic, but it feels pretty solid. Has a handle on the top, I guess that would be when you're brewing, or when it's brewing. And then, you know, on the back, this is where you would unscrew to put the those hop packs, because there's no way, once it's obviously fermenting, there's no way to get dry hops in there. So they make liquid hop extracts that you screw in. Pretty cool system. And that's one of the things I like about this. It just seems like it's very cleverly designed. So I figured for 49 bucks. And then this dial here is basically a spunding valve. So it goes from off to 5. And the instructions in the app apparently tell you what to do, or where to set things. Engineered in the UK. And then on the front, obviously, when you're brewing, I assume you just leave the tap off, but that is where the tap will attach. Looks like the front comes off for cleaning. Well, actually, that's probably where you dump stuff in. Let's just could have looked at the instructions, but I didn't. Hey, it comes with scan for notes, guide to all things Pinter, some basic pressure safety, purifier, chemical warnings, etc. So it looks like this is another handle. Doesn't feel like that comes out. There's a spring and whatnot in there. I'm not going to mess with this too much until I read the instructions. We will get into that when I actually make a beer in it. But again, it feels like it's plastic, but it feels like nice and solid plastic. So let's open the other box, which is the dock. And, you know, again, if you're watching this, you've probably seen other people do Pinter stuff. But basically, you dump your ingredients in, you set it up like this for a week or something. Actually, I think it goes down this way. Yes, of course it would, because the spinning valve's on the back. Set it up like that for, you know, a week, 10 days, whatever is appropriate for your recipe. And then when you're done, you take it off the dock, and all the trube and whatnot stays in the dock. And then you stick it in your fridge condition and put the tap on. And there's the tap. Goes on the front here, obviously. I'll just leave that over there for a second. See what else is in here. It looks like just the dock. In fact, it says right on it, Brewing dock. I can read even. And there is the brewing dock. So basically, I will figure this out as I go. So it looks like when you're going to brew, you would take this lid off the front there and put this down here like this. Basically, I won't snap it in there, but it'll lock in there. I'm curious where we're getting on height for this. Let me check that. Yeah. Sorry, I should have lined this up, but it's like you can't line it up perfectly and unboxed. Yeah, that looks like it should be okay. You don't need to see my face for this one, but so basically you would lock this in place. Sits up like this while it's brewing. Spinning valve to 5. I assume you just leave the spinning valve on pretty much the whole time because it naturally carbonates, and then you just serve right from this thing as well. And that's one of the things that attracted me to go ahead and pull the trigger on this was, you know, for $49 for a cool little fermentation vessel that I'm gonna, you know, do some test batches in. You don't have to worry about kegging, bottling, whatever. You just throw it in here, naturally carbonates, and you serve it out of here. And I think it's going to be a very nice addition to the equipment. And we'll see how their beers are. Apparently, you know, most of the reviews and whatnot I've watched of their beers say they're pretty good. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of it. Not a whole lot to it from an unboxing standpoint, but it feels like a well-made little thing. As someone who, when I was getting back into brewing first, I'm like, let's just get Mr. Beer and see if we even like brewing anymore. It is way more solid than Mr. Beer little brown kegs if you're used to those. And obviously has the advantage of it's a pressure fermenting vessel, or essentially it's a cask fermenting vessel, if you want to look at it that way. And then you can just serve right from it, which again, that for me is the appeal. It feels like it's really cleverly designed. They've kind of taken everything into account, but kept it nice and simple. It's not like the Igulu with all the, you know, machinery involved. It's just a vessel that can take pressure. They thought about, you know, how you get the trube out at the end of fermentation. You just pop it off. And I don't know, it's cleverly designed. And so I guess that's the unboxing. And next, for the next segment, we'll actually put a beer in this thing. So for the setup of this thing, and I will say I originally recorded this video of me doing everything and recording the whole thing, and it turned out super long. I didn't think anybody wanted to sit through all of it. So basically I kind of clip things together. I'm just going to narrate over the top of it. But basically it has a nice app. I will point that out for your phone. I strongly encourage you to use that if you get one of these things. And you basically can name your pinter. You can watch me do typos on my phone. But basically this is, the app is pretty slick. You put your pinter serial number in there off the bottom. And then basically it's a way for the app to track your beer. And the nice thing is it can tell you when things need to happen, you know, when you're brewing. So once you get your pinter added, then I think the next thing I did was hit start brewing. And then you pick your kit. So in my case, I'm doing the Stars and Stripes American Pale Ale. And the kit comes with, I think I did this in the unboxing too, but just basically comes with the hopped malt extract and yeast and cleaner. So basically what you do here is you pick the type of kit you're doing, because of course that will dictate some of the details of how the brewing process goes. So things like, how long is it going to brew? Here's where you can pick the recommended they have a recommended minimum and custom for each kit. The one thing I will say is that in all the videos I watched, basically everybody said I wish I'd given it a little bit more time. So I went custom and did 10 days brewing instead of 5, 2 days cold crash, and I think I upped the conditioning to 7 days instead of 5. So a little bit longer, but the main thing, you don't want to try to test these or drink these kits too early. You want them to ferment all the way out. And I figured I'll just give it plenty of time. It's not going to hurt anything. And then the next step is sanitizing. That flashing light in there is not an actual light on the Pinter, just so you know. That's just to highlight what you're doing here. But again, the app has really nice video instructions. It's really well done. You kind of just can go step by step and really walks you through every step you need to do for brewing. So basically, you fill the thing with warm water, you put the packet of sanitizer comes with it, and then you shake the hell out of it for, I don't remember if they give you a time, 30 seconds, something like that. You just want to make sure that the sanitizer gets all mixed in there on the inside of the thing. And then you put the dock on, and that is the only thing I'll say about this is there's some rubber gaskets in there, so you kind of have to push down on it and then twist it. It's not hard. It's probably less hard than it looks in the video. It's a little springy as you push down on it, though, so you just want to make sure and get that all locked in there correctly. And of course, the idea is now that the sanitizer is in the Pinter, you flip it upside down. Sanitizer will drain down into the dock once it's docked, and essentially when you lock it in there, the valve opens, and it'll fill up that dock. You let it sit there for, I think they said 10 seconds. I let it sit there for a minute or so, and then you undock it, dump the sanitizer out of the dock, and then the next thing is you open up the carbonation dial, because you want this sanitizer running through every nook and cranny of this thing. So you want to let it run through that carbonation dial, open that up, and just kind of shake it to get some running through there for a few seconds. And then I think the next thing I do is do the spout. Same deal there. It's like, you're going to have beer coming through there, so you want to make sure it's nice and sanitized before you're going to have your beer coming through there. So yes, I think here I attach the tap handle to the front, and that clicks in nicely. Everything about this feels really nice and solid, so I'll give them props for that. It just nothing about this feels cheap. It's a very well made, heavy duty thing. So basically, you just put the tap handle on there, and then I put it over the sink to drain some of the sanitizer through the tap handle. Super exciting stuff. But the other thing I'll say is the tap handle is nice and springy. It self-closes, and you got to kind of pull on it a little bit hard to, or not hard, but it has a nice feel to it. It's nice and sturdy, and it's self-closing, which is cool because then you can't accidentally leave it open. And then the next part is the making of the beer. So this is the fun part. So basically, you just want, I will say you don't want RO water or distilled water for this type of brewing. Extract brewing, you want spring water. If your tap water tastes fine and doesn't taste like it has a lot of chlorine in it, you can go ahead and use that. My tap water tends to be pretty heavy in the chlorine, and I've used it for brewing. And even if you put a Campden tablet in there and get rid of the chlorine and the chloramine, my tap water is pretty minerally too. I don't think it works super well for brewing, so I don't tend to use it even with Campden tablet. I use RO water, but basically just get, if you have good tap water, get some spring water, just not RO or distilled. And then you put the malt extract in here. Tip for you, at least I found this helpful. I soaked the bag of malt extract in hot water, just hot tap water, for a minute or two to loosen it up. It's pretty thick stuff, and I've just found, using liquid malt extract before. I found that super helpful just to loosen it up, and then it comes out of the bag, or in some cases can, a little bit easier. And you do want to make sure and kind of get every ounce of that out of it as you can. I didn't film all of this or didn't leave it in here, but roll it up like a toothpaste tube at the end. That will dictate how much of the potential ABV you get out of the thing. So you want to kind of like make sure and get as much out of that as you can down into the water in there. And that's kind of the whole brewing process, is you're just filling it with water and putting this malt extract in there. And then when it's all in there, you then shake the hell out of it again to get that well mixed. That's another thing I saw people comment on, is make sure and shake it get it really shaken up, because I think they said do it for a minute. Most people are saying like do it for more like 3. If you're careful, you could probably even get in there with a sanitized spoon and stir it around. But I would just be careful you're not going to scratch anything if you go that route. I shook it for a couple of minutes probably just to make sure everything was pretty well mixed. But anyway, then I left this part out. After you put the malt extract in, you do need to add the yeast. If you forget that part, you're not going to get beer. So straightforward there. Just, the only thing I think I did that isn't technically speaking in the instructions is I have a spray bottle of Star San. I kind of sanitized my scissors, sanitized the yeast, sanitized the malt extract packet just to make sure everything is nice and clean. This is just me showing a shot of what those little hop bottles look like. This kit I'm doing didn't have one, but that's kind of the step in the brewing steps in the app basically said if you have one of these, pay attention when you add it, I guess, because this wouldn't have one, and that would tend to be something you add later. And then I got a little ahead of myself, but then you put the lid on. I do like the fact that the way they've designed this, you can't really do anything incorrectly. Things lock into place where they're supposed to. That handle only folds down one way. There's notches on the lid for that correspond to tabs on the vice versa. Tabs on the lid that correspond to notches in the dock. And here again, you just get it lined up with that where that spout goes. Push down on it nice and firmly. And then you rotate it until it locks into place. This is not as hard as it looks. I think I was narrating as I went. I was talking about how you line things up, but basically it's here again you can't really go wrong. They've done a nice job of making it pretty foolproof. And then when you get this thing on there's a little bit of play, and they basically said you just want to make sure it's kind of lined up. There's just a little bit of play. You can move it back and forth. There's some dead space between locked and when you start to unlock it. And for some reason, the instructions, they said just make sure that is lined up. I don't know, how super important that is. The other thing is that spout at the bottom. Make sure that is screwed in all the way. That's another thing I saw people said that there's can leak if you don't check to make sure that's screwed in all the way. And then once you got all that stuff assembled, you flip it over, and you'll hear a nice satisfying glugging noise that you won't hear on the video, since I decided to cut it up to make it way more short. This is probably a better indication of how long it'll actually take. And again, it goes down with the dock open, it goes down in there. Make sure your carbonation dial is appropriate for the setting of your recipe. I think most of them are 5. This one happened to be 5, so just double check that. Make sure it's set correctly, not open, because then you won't get any carbonation. And then that's it. I just took a shot of that. I have these little plastic tubs that happen to be pretty much exactly the right size, and I thought, hey, if this thing leaks at all, which it has not, good to have it in a plastic tub. Wouldn't save me if the whole thing leaked, but better than nothing. And then, I think 10 days later, this is me cold crashing. So I had to clear out the beer fridge, take the shelves out, make room for it, because it's pretty tall. And the idea here is with cold crashing is all the protein and yeast and all that stuff floating around in the beer. If you cold crash, it'll come out of suspension, go to the bottom, in this case down into that dock, and that will give you clearer beer in the end. So I'm cold crashing for 2 days, and then I'm going to flip it horizontal, undock it, and we'll see that next. Been cold crashing for 2 days, and so now it's time to undock, which you want to do in a sink, because what happens when you pop the Pinter off the dock at the bottom is all that stuff's going to come out. So and from what I've seen online, it can get a little bit messy. Let's give it a shot here and see what happens. I don't know the best way to get a hold of it to turn it. So use the handle. I don't want to break anything, but All right, there we go. That seemed to work. All right. Well, that is maybe less dramatic. I wonder if some of the people I've seen do it did not cold crash. I'll set this just over here for a second. Maybe this way so it's not getting too much stuff on the counter. But yeah, I should be able to see that. So basically, again, the idea is all your trub and yeast and whatnot winds up in the bottom of the dock. Let's kind of dump this out and see what it looks like. Not a lot of trub. That seemed more like just beer. I don't know. Looked like beer anyway. Smells like beer. Oh, down in there. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to see this, but down in there. Okay, so you do lose a bit of beer, given the way this dock works. But down in there, there is a nice packed yeast cake. It is not going to come out. Okay, well, and that's the next step. I'm just seeing what you're looking at. And then the front of it, obviously, will need a little bit of cleanup too. Let's see if we can get a shot of this without getting too crazy. Not too bad though. It stays relatively clean there. That's a nice, yeah. So that thing seemed to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Smells like beer, looked like beer. Nice yeast cake down in there that I'll rinse out, and then we'll put the front on and put the spout on, or the tap handle. And then you put it back in the fridge, obviously sitting this orientation now instead of upright, now that it's done fermenting and has cold crashed. And yeah, so the next part is the exciting part. We'll get to taste the beer. And I think I'm going to let it, I think what I came up with, I'm going to let it sit in the fridge for maybe 5 to 7 days. Just to make sure, again, I'm giving it extra time to make sure it has plenty of time to do what it needs to do. And we'll do the tasting next. Now that we have the Pinter undocked, I thought I'd talk about cleaning, everyone's favorite topic, but it is, all joking aside, it's very important. I want to highly recommend 2 things. 1, clean it right after you get whatever substances out of the thing that you want out of the thing. Don't let it sit there and get crusty and dry and start growing stuff. You don't want to have that headache on your hands. And number 2 is don't use dish soap. You know, a lot of the Pinter forums, people using dish soap having good luck. Maybe this is just from, you know, brewing and other methods and so on. And historically, going back to when I first started brewing in the 90s, basically, recommendation has always been don't use dish soap because the surfactant nature of dish soap leaves residue, and that can negatively impact your beer. I should say specifically, don't use dish soap on the cold side of things, which the Pinter, everything's on the cold side. So here are some other options for cleaning and sanitizing. Oxygen brewery wash on the left there is a powdered brewery wash. It's I think similar or even maybe the same stuff that comes with the Pinter kits. Pinter kits are a sanitizer, I think is how they deem it, but I think it's sodium percarbonate, which that oxygen brewery wash is primarily. Also, that's an option. It's available on most brew supply places, handy to have around. PBW liquid is another option. That's an acid-based cleaner. It's mostly, this is where I will mispronounce things, sodium metasilicate, I think is the primary ingredient in that. They make a powdered form too. I would never get the powdered form now because the temperature range that you need for the powdered form of PBW is much narrower, and it's just harder to use, harder to dissolve, all that stuff. So liquid's the way to go. I use that on my Brewzilla and several other things. It's just really nice cleaner to have around. Now, the reason I have that OxyClean in the mix here is because it is very, very similar, if not, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar enough you could say they're equivalent to the oxygen brewery wash. It's also sodium percarbonate and sodium carbonate. Just make sure and get the free. It is substantially cheaper than oxygen brewery wash. I got that because I think pretty much anymore the only thing I use the oxygen brewery wash on is my brew bag. I just soak it overnight in oxygen brewery wash. OxyClean, just get the free, so there's no dyes and perfumes. Same stuff, way, way, way cheaper. I don't know if it's like 4 to 8 times less expensive or something like that. So that's for cleaning. And then I thought I'd throw the sanitizers in there as well, because what I tend to do is I'll clean the thing and then I'll sanitize it right after, even though if it's clean and there's nothing on there, you don't really need to sanitize it, but I figure, hey, it can't hurt. A couple different products I tend to use for that. One is Star San, which is an acid sanitizer, phosphoric acid, mostly pretty widely used. It's a food grade, no rinse sanitizer, so you can just dilute it to the recommended level and then spray it on your stuff, or in the pinter you might dilute some in there and shake it around and then dump it out. You don't need to rinse. SaniClean is very similar. It's also phosphoric acid based. It's low foaming, if that matters. You use more of it because it's more dilute than the Star San, but way less foam, so that's the trade-off there. So anyway, that's just to give you some options. I would highly recommend don't use dish soap. Use one of these, one of the cleaners on the left there for cleaning the thing. Sanitize with one of the two on the right there, and just do it right after the thing is emptied, because then you won't be kicking yourself later for letting it get crusty. All right, here we are 2 weeks later. First taste from the pinter. I'll overlay some or work it in somehow the actual pour, but this is literally the first pour from the pinter. Some people have said you get some, trub and whatnot on your first pour. I think since I cold crashed for 2 days, probably avoided that somewhat. I've heard other people say if you just condition long enough, it kind of settles to the bottom, even if you don't cold crash vertically. But, pretty impressive. I like the, not talking about the flavor yet, but I like the amount of carbonation, and the type of, kind of the character of the carbonation is really nice. Nice white fluffy head on there, plenty of carbonation. This spout pours pretty nicely. I am pretty impressed. I expected to have a little bit more trouble getting it right, but basically if you just open it kind of not super hardcore, and do the usual 45 degree angle on the glass, it comes out pretty nicely. So in terms of the nose, it smells like beer. There's a kind of non-characteristic hop character to it. Not unpleasant. I'm not saying any of this is unpleasant. It's just, it doesn't smack you in the face as anything in particular. It's just smells like beer, smells like hops. There is a certain amount of yeast quality to the aroma. I don't know if that'll, maybe on the second pint that will fade. But, not unpleasant. Yeah, nothing super strong in any particular aspect of the aroma. It just smells like beer, basically. Not a lot of hops, though. I tend to like more hop aroma. Not a lot here. This did not have one of those, that Stars and Stripes Pale Ale, and did not have one of those hop bottles, hopper, whatever they call them. So that I assume beers like that, and I have one that has that, so I'll do another few of these. But that probably gives a little more hop character. Appearance-wise, it is not super clear, but it is not, it's not chunky or whatever. It is, if I had brewed this beer from scratch and it looked like this, I'd probably be thinking that's, mostly just chill haze, because it's not, it doesn't look flawed appearance-wise. It's just not super clear. Nice color. It's kind of a nice, little bit of a coppery golden, medium color. Pretty good looking beer. All right, now for the important part. What does it taste like? That's not bad. The body is pretty, I'd call it pretty light. I wouldn't say it's thin, but it's very much on the light side. I would personally, I'd like a beer even like this one just to have a little bit more malt body to it. But the hop character and the flavor is actually pretty nice. It doesn't taste, I will say there's no off flavors in any of this. Some of the videos I've watched, people, like you can taste diacetyl or whatever, or it's kind of overwhelmingly yeasty because it didn't ferment out all the way, or too sweet, has that, kind of like cider characteristic almost to it if it doesn't ferment out all the way. I get none of that here. This is definitely a pretty clean tasting beer. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's not the best beer I've ever had, but it's very drinkable. I can see how people who maybe like a little bit of hops in their beer would like this one. Now that I've had a couple sips, but okay, before I do that, look at the head and the legs on this thing. That's pretty impressive. And again, that's the main reason I got this thing. I want to, be able to throw small batches of beer in this thing and just condition in the thing and serve from the thing. I think it's gonna serve that purpose really well because that is really nice looking. Yeah, no complaints there. Anyway, what I was getting at is I think now that I've had a couple of sips, there's a little bit of a tang in the aftertaste that, most people would probably associate with extract beers. I've made extract beers, especially if you use dry malt extract, that don't have any of that, but this has just a little bit of that going on. And for me, it's a little bit out of balance, I guess I'd say. The body is not not beefy enough to offset the amount of hops that you get in the aftertaste. And again, I'm being super nitpicky here. This is for 20 minutes of work, or whatever. This is a pretty good beer. I guess the biggest corollary I would have or point of comparison would be the flash brewing kits that I did earlier this summer, or sorry, it's New Year now, last summer. Again, just, amount of work you put into it and the beer you get out of it. I would say this is, for me, not as good as the Citra Session Pale Ale of the Flash Brewing, but it is probably similar or up there with the I Heart IPA Flash Brewing. But I think the advantage that the Pinter kits have over that is the Flash Brewing kits, at least last I looked, are still 5 gallons. So I think if you could get, smaller kits like those, that maybe the flavor is a little bit better. Again, based on this one, I think I have 2 others, and I ordered 2 more because I just want to try several of these. Why not? They're a little bit pricey for the amount of beer you get, but figure I'll mess around with this a little bit. If they have smaller flash brewing kits at some point, or if you want to do the work to divide them up, that sounds like a pain to me. It would be interesting to do one of those in here. The only thing I would worry about is that flash yeast might be too much for this thing. I don't know. One way to find out. But overall, it's a fun process. It was easy to do, and this is a very drinkable beer. I don't, I'm picking it apart a little bit. It doesn't compare with, if I had, thrown a beer like this together from All Grain, it would be better. But this is not, I don't hate it. So I think the other kit I got when I bought the Pinter is their stout that apparently a lot of people like. And I honestly don't remember the other couple I have on the way. One is the Brewdog Punk IPA or something like that a lot of people seem to like. And then I got another one that looks hazy. They didn't call it hazy. It's tropical something. Figured I'd try a couple more. But I will say, when I ordered those 2 more kits, they are, the kits are like $30 to $35. And by the time you add shipping in, if I had only, the shipping stays kind of stable. But if I had only ordered 1 kit, it would have been $50, I think, for 10 to 12 pints of beer. That's not cheap. For as a point of comparison, the grains for when I do a 5-gallon batch all grain are substantially less than that, $25 to $30 probably. So anyway, just something to think about. But again, it's not all about the money. If we were mostly into it for this, we wouldn't be doing this because it's not a cheap hobby. But I think this is the device itself is really slick. Like I said in the intro, they've designed it well. It's very cleverly designed. I love the docking station, the fact you can get the trube out of there before you condition it. The hot port is pretty cool. And the beer itself, again, this is it's not terrible. I don't have any major, screaming complaints about it. If I got this on tap somewhere, I would probably just think, not my favorite, but not bad. Like I said, it's just a little bit out of balance for me, and I'll be curious to see if some of the other kits work better. But I guess I'll end it there. So I think, if this seems interesting to you, and especially if you don't want to get into the full-blown all-grain brewing yet, a lot of people think they don't, and then they get bit by the bug and want to do that. But the device itself, I'll give it a solid A+. It's for what it is and what it's designed to do, I think it's really fantastically designed. And in fact, after I bought the first one, they said, "Hey, you want to buy a second one for $49?" Didn't come with the kits like it did the first time around, but I did get a second one of these because then I can kind of have a couple things going at once. And again, it's just look at it this way. It's a nice small fermenter. I hope this is in frame. I'll move it over just in case it's not. Try not to slosh the beer around too much. But it's a nice small pressure capable fermenter that carbonates itself, and at the end of it, you get, again, a pretty good looking beer. And at the end of the day, you can put whatever ingredients you want in this thing. Again, you void the warranty, but I'm really going to be interested to do some small batch all grain, or even just, extract with, just dry malt extract and doing the more typical way, and trying this out further. Because as a device, it's very cool. This kit is not my favorite, but not terrible. I think the key is give it plenty of time. I think that is probably the major thing. And I've watched a lot of Pinter videos. The major thing is just give it enough time to do its thing. But yeah, well done, Pinter. And I'll probably do more kits. Probably won't do a full, I'm not going to probably show as elaborate a video as this one, but just, do a quick montage of making the beer and testing it, because I'm curious how the other ones work out. But I think that's it for now. This is a pleasant surprise. And again, the main thing I'm looking for here is, even if the beer isn't, my favorite, the level of carbonation in this that you just get from letting it do its thing in there is pretty impressive. And for me, that's a big win, because then if I'm doing a small batch, I don't have to do it in one fermenter and then transfer to a small keg or do all that stuff. You just put it in here and you're done, and that's pretty fantastic. So I'll probably have more to say about this. Definitely excited to try one of my recipes in it, and some of their others as well. So we'll keep you posted on Pinter stuff. And that's it for now. Cheers.